Okay, good evening, everybody. Just want to welcome you to our scoping meeting tonight. Before we get started, I just want to read some instructions for those of you participating on Zoom. So thank you again for participating in our Zoom video public scoping meeting for potential amendments to District Rule 4460, Petroleum Refinery Fence Line Air Monitoring, and District Rule 3200, Petroleum Refinery Community Air Monitoring Fees. We have staff members participating in person and via Zoom video teleconference. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation on Zoom video and audio teleconference. We also have Spanish translation services available for public participation on Zoom video and AT&T teleconference. Before we begin, I want to review some important guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices such as your cell or desk phone. This will ensure that we are not hearing any feedback that can interrupt the meeting. Only district staff will be visible on Zoom. Members of the public are asked to unmute themselves when they are recognized to make a public comment. After the presentation, staff will announce the public comment period has opened, and staff will recognize any public attendee who has indicated they wish to speak. On the Zoom video application, please press the raise hand button so that you may be recognized to speak, and be sure to unmute yourself. If you are participating by Zoom teleconference, press *9 to raise your hand so that you may be recognized to speak, and staff will call the last 4 digits of your phone number when it is your turn to speak. Be sure to press *6 to unmute or mute yourself. If you are participating on the Spanish translation teleconference, please press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. Our translators are on the line and will translate your comments for staff. I also wanted to note as well, as we see in this first slide here, if you have any thoughts or comments or questions you want to send to that email address of webcast@valier.org, we will be able to view that inbox here during the meeting, and we can read those comments or questions for everybody to hear and make some responses as well. So remember that email address. You can send some questions during the meeting or comments, or at the end if you want to as well, you can do that. So we'll bring that up again at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to send it over to our translators to see if they have any updates or comments they want to make before we get started.
Interpreter, you may go ahead and speak.
Thank you. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos a la reunión del día de hoy. Durante la reunión tendremos interpretación en español disponible. Para seleccionar la interpretación, favor de seleccionar el icono que parece un mundo abajo de su pantalla. Después de seleccionar el icono de mundo, usted va a seleccionar su lenguaje de preferencia. En este caso será español. Le invito a poner el audio original en silencio para que de esta manera no escuche un eco cuando esté escuchando la presentación. Se le invita a someter sus preguntas y respuestas en su lenguaje de preferencia y aquí estaremos para asistir. Si tiene cualquier pregunta en algún momento, a favor de elevar su mano usando la función que está abajo de la pantalla de la manita, y de esa manera usted será escuchado durante el momento apropiado de preguntas y comentarios. Si quiere hacer su pregunta en voz alta, a favor de esperar y le llamarán para abordar su pregunta y la puede hacer en su lenguaje. In case we do have any Spanish questions that are queued in, I do invite our English-only participants to also select interpretation and go into the English channel. To select interpretation, you will select the world-like icon that is at the bottom of the screen and select English, and everything else will be just as normal. But this way, if we do have any Spanish comments, you would be able to hear the real live interpretation. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that information. Really appreciate it. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get the public scoping meeting started. We're going to go through a presentation today. Before we get started, just want to introduce myself. I'm John Klassen. I'm the Director of Air Quality Science and Planning with the Air District. I'm joined by Chai Tao, Program Manager, and Molly Boyette, Air Quality Specialist. This is kicking off a public process for potential amendments to these rules. We will be going through a comprehensive evaluation over the coming months throughout this year. There'll be other workshops with more details to share, but this is just giving a high-level overview of opening up this public process to consider these potential amendments. So certainly want to get your thoughts and comments at this time if you have any, and encourage you to stay involved throughout this process over the coming months. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Molly to get our presentation started.
Thanks, John. So to provide some background on the rules we're talking about today, as part of Assembly Member Al Muratsuchi's bill package, AB 1647 was approved by the Governor of California on October 8th of 2017. This was created due to safety incidents at large refineries in the Bay Area and South Coast. AB 1647 requires petroleum refineries to develop, install, operate, and maintain a fence line air monitoring system at and near the refineries in accordance to guidance developed by CARB and the local air districts. It requires air districts to design, develop, install, operate, and maintain a refinery-related community air monitoring system, and it requires real-time data from both of these systems be made accessible to the public. So the district adopted Rule 4460 and Rule 3200 in December of 2019 through a public process to implement the requirements of AB 1647. Next slide, please. So current district Rule 4460 requires refineries to install, operate, and maintain a fence line air monitoring system and to make the data collected by the system publicly available. The rule exempts refineries that are not currently engaged in refining crude oil, and it specifies which pollutants must be considered in monitoring plans of the refineries based on their capacity. So petroleum refineries with a processing capacity of less than 40,000 barrels per day would be required to consider 6 pollutants, which include sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, and VTEX compounds, to be monitored by point monitoring or open path system. And petroleum refineries with a capacity of 40,000 barrels per day or greater would be required to consider that longer list that you see in the table to be monitored with open path systems and point monitoring as needed. Next slide, please. And current District Rule 3200 recovers the district's costs of developing and maintaining the refinery-related community air monitoring system as mandated by AB 1647. And the community monitoring approach and fees are based on establishing a community air monitoring station with a variety of sensors that measures a range of possible pollutants and parameters. Next slide, please. A recent Fresno County Superior Court ruling in September of 2021 provides additional clarification on the statutory requirements under AB 1647, and the issues that need to be addressed include the removal of the exemption for affected facilities not currently engaged in refining crude oil, and a reevaluation and additional supporting analysis with respect to the monitoring provisions for refineries with a capacity of less than 40,000 barrels per day, which are currently required to monitor those 6 pollutants. In response to this court order, the district is beginning a public process to develop amendments and additional technical analysis for Rule 4460 and Rule 3200. Next slide, please. So in developing the guidance for the fence line monitoring systems, AB 1647 requires the district to take into account monitoring technological capabilities, to incorporate input from the affected parties, and to the extent feasible, it shall be informed by the Refinery Emergency Air Monitoring Assessment Report, or REMAR, and the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, or OEHA, report analysis of refinery chemical emissions and health effects. Next slide, please. The REMAR was prepared by the California Air Resources Board and California Air Pollution Control Officers Association to improve air monitoring and emergency response for refineries. The first report, Objective 1, Delineation of Existing Capabilities, provides inventory of emergency air monitoring assets and capabilities for refineries in California. And the second report, Objective 2, Evaluation of Air Monitoring Capabilities, Gaps and Potential Enhancements, provides recommendations to improve emergency and routine air monitoring at refineries and in surrounding communities. These recommendations cover air monitoring technology, modeling, and coordination. Next slide, please. As companion to the REMAR, OEHA prepared the Analysis of Refinery Chemical Emissions and Health Effects report in September of 2017. This report presents a list of chemicals emitted from California refineries and identifies the top 16 candidates for air monitoring, taking into account the emissions levels and toxicity. So that is the list of the top 16 candidates there. And now I'll be passing it over to Chai to go over monitoring equipment.
All right, thank you, Molly. And as we move forward with this rule amendment process, and we'll definitely go into a bit more detail in upcoming and future workshops, but just to provide a general overview, these are some of the air monitoring considerations for the monitoring equipment that we will be looking at. One is the type of air monitoring equipment. And as you heard earlier, Molly talking about point monitoring and open path monitoring. Those are the different types of monitoring where point monitoring is just one single location. It it samples the air and gets the measurement for a specific type of pollutants. Whereas open path, there's a light ray that goes between 2 points, and that can cover an entire length of a property, and that's capable of detecting multiple pollutants as well, and the concentration levels of those. And we'll also have to consider the varying capabilities for each of these type of monitors. They have, depending upon the type of technology, they have different levels that they're able to detect the pollutants, and some are capable of detecting one type of pollutant, whereas others may be able to detect multiple types of pollutants. And then on top of that, there's some measurement techniques that can only be sampled, and then you have to send that sample to a laboratory to analyze it to determine how much pollutant it's measuring, whereas others are able to do that detection real time and provide that information in real time. And then there may be some pollutants that there are no established monitoring methodologies for. So those are some of the considerations that we'll have to take into account. And then, of course, there's varying maintenance requirements for the different types of technologies and air monitoring equipment, and a very wide, broad range of costs as well onto these various types of equipments. And so these are pictures of the various point monitoring technology, as you can see there on the left-hand side. And then you have the open path monitoring technology, where you can see where you have one that's shooting out the light ray and another is a reflector, and it can create just that line there that's able to detect any type of pollutants that crosses that path. And so that's the technology, air monitoring technology portion of it. I'm going to go over just a very broad overview of the oil refining industry here within the valley. And just for comparison, we're here in the San Joaquin Valley, it's fairly relatively small in terms of oil processing, as you can see through here, compared to like South Coast and Bay Area, where you see South Coast is up to a 1 million barrels per day capacity. And so there are 4 refining operations here in the valley. And as you can see here, the locations are identified there. They're all in Bakersfield, and the processing capacities, as you can see, there are fairly small, ranging from 12,000 to 66,000 barrels per day. So the first one here, and I'll go over the details after this slide for each one of them. But we have 2 here that's not refining currently, and that's Bakersfield Renewable Fuels, which was formerly known as Alon, and also the Tricor Refining LLC, which is also not refining. So the first one we have here is San Joaquin Refining Company. That's an independent oil refining company located also in Bakersfield. It's one of the smallest refineries in the state. The majority of the products used is in asphalt production, and it serves industries within applications for diesel fuel, drilling fluids, fuel additives, hydraulic fluids, lubricants, tires, etc. And this is where it's located for those who are familiar with the Bakersfield. Current Oil and Refining is the next one. It produces gasoline and diesel. It's one of the key suppliers for the southern San Joaquin Valley. It also co-processes and blends various biofuels with fossil fuel production processes. And that's located in this at this place here. Bakersfield Renewable Fuels. So that name has recently been just changed to this. Prior to that, it was known as Alon. and it's currently not refining petroleum. They're working on modifying this facility into a renewable fuel production, where the feedstocks will include vegetable oil and animal fats, and they're actually currently conducting fence line monitoring of weather conditions, ammonia, and hydrogen sulfide, and they've been doing this before the rule requirements. And this is their location as well. Tricor Refining LLC. This facility is currently not refining petroleum. It's only receiving, storing, and shipping various petroleum products, and also producing air-blown asphalt. And that's the location. And all of these refineries here in the valley for a number of years have been subject to federal, state, and local regulations in terms of air pollution. And so, as you can see through here, there's a lot of requirements already through performance standards. There's various federal new source performance standards that apply to new and modified equipment at these refineries that address volatile organic liquid storage, address the performance for these petroleum refineries to limit emissions. And then in addition to that, there are also a large number of stringent district regulations, as shown through this list here, through visible emissions, nuisance, flares, boilers and steam generators, refinery processes, storage of organic liquids, and so forth. And so as we move forward with this process, some key issues for consideration include what approach and type of equipment should be used for the refinery fence line air monitoring, and what pollutants should be monitored. And are there any other questions or input that you feel that we should also consider in this process? And again, this is just to kickstart the process, and we're taking in input from all of you to help guide us as we go through this process in this rule amendment. And as far as the next steps, so today we have our public scoping meeting. As we move forward here, we'll have workshops and then final publication of the proposed rule. And then once that's completed, we'll take that to the governing board for adoption. And again, definitely we'll include public participation will be a big part of this process, and your comments will be are invited throughout this process. And the main contact for this will be Molly Boyette, who just spoke earlier. Here's her contact information and email. And you can also sign up at this URL here to sign up for any type of updates that we have for district petroleum refineries. So basically, you go to this website, you enter your email address in there, and you can select a list of topics that you would like to receive information on. So whenever we have any type of updates on those, we'll send it through those listservs. And that concludes our presentation, and we'd be happy to answer any questions, and also to take in any comments and input.
Thanks, Chai. And just a reminder, we're showing this email address here again on the slide, webcast.valyair.org. So if you'd like to send in a comment or a question, you can also send it into that email address, and we'll be able to see that come in here live, and we can read that for everybody to hear what your comment or question is. So with that, we'll go ahead and see if there are any comments at this time.
We currently have one for public comment currently for Cynthia Pinto Cabrera.
Hi, hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks everybody. Cynthia Pinto Cabrera with the Central Valley Air Quality Coalition, and thanks so much for continuing to have these public processes. But we would just like to encourage the Valley Air District to strengthen these rules. Oil refinery emissions are a serious problem that endanger our health and our safety from cancer-causing chemicals like benzene and other toxic air contaminants. oil refineries have been proving to be detrimental to the health of neighboring communities. And given the recent failure to abide by the law and prioritize on public health, it's going to be extremely important that Valley Air hold the oil industry accountable and provide the public with much needed transparency on these emissions. The technology to meet the much needed emissions reductions are available, and we must definitely use it. Emissions data and emissions reductions are essential to protecting public health and the safety of communities living next to these refineries. It's now up to the Valley Air to end monitoring exceptions and loopholes that have led to some of these regulatory failures and that have failed to protect public health. And we look forward to engaging in this process and developing a more meaningful regulation. Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia.
We have an additional comment with Jasmine Martinez.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jasmine Martinez, and I'm a Kern County resident and coordinator with the Central Valley Air Quality Coalition. Just to further follow up on my colleagues' comments, also here to urge you to strengthen the rules 4460 and 3200. The health effects of living near a refinery prove to be chronic and gradual. Some adverse health effects living near a refinery include increased risk of asthma, cancers, birth defects, neurological damage, cardiovascular damage, and blood disorders. Low-income people of color are disproportionately impacted by the toxic harm of refineries, and communities like Lamont are made into sacrificial communities just for better gas. All refineries, no matter the size or output, are dangerous operations that threaten public health and safety, and strengthening these regulations is the first step toward genuine protection for fence-line communities. These air monitoring requirements need to go beyond information gathering and transparency, and this information must be actively used to reduce emissions and guide enforcement efforts. The district needs to locate and mitigate the sources of toxic releases, require multilingual public and agency notifications of exposure, and close existing air monitoring gaps to ensure data reflects the lived experiences of communities on the fence line. It's time to end all district practices and regulations that provide exemptions or loopholes, allowing this public health threat to continue freely. Also, while CVAC supports the additional stringency and improvements of these rules, we simultaneously support a just transition to clean, renewable energy with reliable, equitable storage. And with that, thank you again for your time.
Great. Thank you, Jasmine.
We have additional comment with Emma Dela Rosa.
Good evening. My name is Emma de la Rosa, policy advocate with Leadership Council. I work directly with the community of Fuller Acres, which is the community to the right of Kern Oil Refinery. These community members have raised issues from the refinery multiple times due to the nosebleeds that their children constantly have, the headaches. Not to mention their homes are very old and they don't have the weatherization upgrades to ensure that all of the emissions from that refinery are not coming into the home. They don't have any type of a green space to try to sequester any of those chemicals. These folks are breathing the chemicals that are coming out of this refinery every single day. Folks have sent me pictures and videos of large flare gas. Larger than I assume is really allowed. And it often happens it happens around 2, 3 in the morning at a time where not a lot of people are out. That sounds very convenient. It's important that these rules do address these issues and also ensure that these rules also inform community members. Folks don't know when they have violated rules, and that's important for people to know. They often hear booms without any type of explanation from the Kern Oil Refinery or from the Air District. And again, that causes concern. I strongly recommend and suggest that for the next meeting, there is more information as to what those chemicals are. I think those last questions of what the approach and the type of equipment and the question of what pollutants should be monitored are really good questions. But I think as the experts, y'all should be providing a little bit more information as to what are the chemicals that are mostly affecting folks, right? What are the most what are the chemicals that are hurting the health of people the most, and what equipment really would monitor chemicals at all times of day. So yeah, again, just more information to be provided at the next meeting, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma, for those comments. And certainly with the other workshops we'll be having over the coming months, we will be providing some more of those details about different pollutants being emitted and different monitoring equipment that could capture some of that. So we'll be getting into more details in the coming months and look forward to getting your further feedback on that. Thanks for your comments.
We have an additional comment with Naomi Martinez.
Hi, buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Naomi Martinez, Executive Director of the Central California Environmental Justice Network, or CCJN. I'm calling on behalf of the group of Lamont residents, especially youth, who participated in our Youth Environmentally Savvy project this past year. At the end of the summer, between the end of August and beginning of September, youth engaged in collection of bucket samples, grab samples of VOCs that were sent to a certified lab for analysis. We found traces of benzene and another chemical that I can't remember right now. But I'm just calling because the youth weren't able to come tonight, and they would like to bring to your attention that in addition to any stationary monitoring that could be done in the refinery, it's important to include a continuous grab samples for total VOCs. Many of them live right across from this refinery in Lamont and are very concerned that this is where they are breathing, and they would like for these to be included in future discussions of this rulemaking. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi. Appreciate it.
We have additional comment with residents Lost Hills. Residents of Lost Hills, you currently have the floor. Would you like to speak? Please unmute yourself.
Sí, mi nombre es Saúl Ruiz y soy residente de Lost Hills y quisiera cuestionar sobre los estándares del petróleo. A hoy, este día de hoy fue el primer día que hizo aire aquí en la comunidad de Lost Hills y ya teníamos como unos 2 o 3 meses que no venía el olor, y ya hoy como a las 11 de la mañana y 12 del día, estaba un olor muy fuerte como a hule quemado o como aceite, el mal olor que siempre ha habido aquí en Los Hills, y quisiera reportar eso, que chequen, porque viene la temporada de aire y los olores pues llegan aquí a la comunidad, y la verdad sí estoy muy preocupado porque anteriormente estuvimos monitoreando el aire y encontramos algunos olores muy feos aquí en la comunidad, y quisiera pedirle al distrito del aire que pusieran más atención sobre las compañías de petróleo aquí en Los Hills. Esto es todo, oiga, nomás quería comentarles eso. Gracias.
Interpreter, can you interpret for us?
Hi, good afternoon. I was interpreting in real time. Sorry, I will have to give a summary because I was interpreting in real time. I thought everybody had joined the English interpretation channel. But it was a community member from Lost Hills, and he does mention that in his community, the oil smells are really strong. And recently they did have a windy day between the hours of 11 to 12 a.m. They did get a really strong odor in the community that just smelled like burnt plastic. And they wanted to bring that up to the Air District's attention and make sure that you knew that this was an issue. And the community member just wanted to make sure that the Air District was aware that this is a great concern to them, and that they want to make sure that we're paying attention to oil refinery companies in the community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for those comments and for that summary. Much appreciated.
Thank you. We have additional comment with Jenny Martinez.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jenny Martinez. I am a resident, I was raised in Hilltop Fuller Acres. My family still lives there. I own a home there. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Kern Oil, growing up with the Kern Oil refinery, next in proximity. For a long time, our family has tried to report to the Air District, going back decades. And it's really difficult to actually know what the toxins are, because what the process has been in the past is someone comes out, tries to capture and then test. So I definitely want to recommend, if there is any technology in real time where we can know what is actually being pushed out of the refinery, would be great. I would also like to encourage any type of monitoring that residents can do, where they could report smells. I don't know if that already exists or not, but if it does, maybe doing more public outreach within the community. A lot of the homes in Hilltop Fuller Acres, including my family's, we don't have weatherized homes. We have a cooler, so there's really no escaping any chemical smells that sometimes come at odd hours. So I would definitely, just want to encourage more tools for residents in publicizing those tools as well, and quicker monitoring so that we know in real time what is actually being, smelled in the air. Thank you.
Hey, Jenny, thank you for those comments. Right now, the Kern Oil just recently installed their fence line monitoring as of just last week. And so it is up and available on their website. So they've created a website for that. You can access it through our website, but you can also go directly to that website. And that website is Kern, Kern 4460.com. So if you go to Kern 4460.com, that will show you on the real-time emissions at their facility. And right now they do have the fence line monitoring open path, so that covers part of the north side, the east side, and a part of the southern side as well. And you should be able to get the readings on there, and they have it with a chart there. And you can also sign up on that website to notify you via email anytime there's any high levels of concentration levels for whether if it's BTAX, H2S, or SO2. And also in addition to that, we do have on our website, we also have community monitoring for refineries, and that's been up since late October of last year. And that monitor is located at Mountain View Middle School. So that's just south of Kern Oil Refining. And we also are monitoring for BTAX, H2S, and SO2. And you can get the live data feed for that particular one on our website as well. You can go into the air monitoring on our website, and under air monitoring, there is a oil refinery link. Once you click onto that, it'll take you to it'll show both the Kern Oil and San Joaquin, but Kern Oil is the one that's being implemented right now. So there should be a link in there, and you can find that through there.
We have additional public comment with Jesus Alonso.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Jesus.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon. My name is Jesus Alonso. I'm a community organizer with Clean Water Action. I'm also a lifelong community member of Lamont. I've lived downwind from the Kern Oil Refinery all my life. And I'm here to urge you to strengthen the Rule 4460 and 3200. You know, I attended the middle school just south of the refinery, and I can tell you firsthand that it has huge and long-term health effects on our children and our families. So pretty much what we're asking is for concerning community concerning monitors. We need a monitor right at the refinery that gives us, the community members, alerts and information consistently and constantly. That way we constantly know what's going on with the refinery. Just about every other year, the refinery catches fire or something goes wrong with it. And it really puts our community in a panic. So having that information readily available for us is very important. Along with that, I would say we would need a monitor in the Hilltop community. I understand we have one down at the middle school, but we also need to know how the community right across the street is impacted by the contaminants at the refinery. And then lastly, for the contaminants to recommend, I would say the sixth thing recommended from OEHA would be the bare minimum we should look into in order to best protect our communities from these dangerous contaminants. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesus, for those comments.
We have additional comment with Diana Mireles.
Sí, buenas tardes. ¿Sí me escuchan? ¿Aló?
Yes, go ahead.
Ok, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Diana Mireles y soy miembro del Comité Progreso de Lamont. Nosotros fuimos parte de las regulaciones para que se implicaran los monitores en las refinerías que habían sido exceptas. Varias de mis preguntas ya han sido contestadas con los otros comentarios, ¿verdad? Sí quería saber sobre si ya se había implementado el monitor aquí en la refinería de la Panamá y la 184, que nosotros estamos como a una milla de esta refinería. También lo que nos preocupa es lo que decía Jesús ahorita sobre las explosiones que ha habido en los años pasados y luego a veces la lumbre tan alta que está. Y luego alguien comentó sobre que a las 3 de la mañana se huelen gases o algo. Inclusive una vez yo pasé como a la 1 de la mañana y sí se miraba una nube blanca, nada más lo que era ahí. Y era en tiempo de calor, no podemos decir era neblina, era algo. Era una nube blanca y sí se olía un olor a gas muy fuerte. Pero también mi otra pregunta era sobre cómo saber los resultados de lo que está haciendo el monitor, pero ya dieron las respuestas. Eso es lo que tenía que decir. Gracias.
Interpretation, can you provide us with a summary?
Yes, not a problem at all. And in case you would all like to make it a little easier with the process, please feel free to join interpretation. For our English only speakers, you would have to select the interpretation icon at the bottom of the screen and select English. And I am actually doing it in real time, but this was a resident from Lamont. She belongs to a community group called Progreso of Lamont. And she was letting us know that she lives in an area very approximate around Panama and 184. So about 1 mile from the refinery that Jesus Alonso was mentioning. And she says that she also wants to reiterate that, yes, the explosions that have occurred there at times have been very concerning to the community members, and that she as well around 3 in the morning has gone by and also has smelled those fumes, the smells of crude oil, and around 1 in the morning she has passed in previous occasions, and she also glanced at a cloud of a very heavy white cloud where she knew that it wasn't normal. It wasn't a foggy day, so she knew that something might have been burning or something was not normal. Thank you.
All right, thank you for those comments and that summary. Appreciate it.
We have additional public comment with Laura Hayter. Laura, you have the floor. Laura, you are able to talk if you still would like to. Oh, it looks like she has left. Our next comment will be Gabriel Castro. Gabriel, you currently have the floor. Gabriel, if you're there, you are able to speak. It looks like Laura has returned. Laura, you currently have the floor for public comment.
Yes, I've heard of like 3 chemicals being used in the oil industry or emitted. One is bromopropane. Is that really used in the oil industry? I'm not sure, because I heard in one place it was. And also xylene, because one refinery in Pennsylvania emitted 3,000 pounds of xylene per year. And I wonder what the risks are of that. I haven't really researched it yet. And also I heard of PFAs used in oil drilling. Is that true? Thanks.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for those comments. And as we have other workshops through the process, we can provide some more details on the types of pollutants coming from refineries and what types of equipment can monitor those potential health impacts. So be on the lookout for some more information coming in the coming months. And we'd love seeing your thoughts and comments on that in the near future. Appreciate those thoughts.
We have no additional public comment at this time. I apologize. We have 2 additional comments. We'll start with Paulina Torres.
Hi, Paulina Torres with the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment. I got a call from one of our organizers that some of our Spanish-speaking residents are having trouble joining, so I'm hoping they get a chance to join. But in the meantime, I want to share some of the concerns that I have and that I know they have given kind of our conversations about this matter. With regards to Alon and Tricor, your presentation noted again the distinction that they're not actually refining petroleum. But I just want to name that I think this is a bit misleading for residents, since you failed to mention that reported air emission inventories confirm that these refineries continue to engage in a variety of refining activities that release a range of pollutants into our communities. So for example, even if Tricor is only receiving, storing, and shipping various petroleum products and producing air-blown asphalt, Tricor, from my understanding, is still classified as a petroleum refinery, and that there are actually emissions that come from the range of activities associated with Tricor. In terms of the question, I think posed in the slide about what pollutants to monitor for. I understand that this is the first meeting, but really want to echo the excellent comments made by Emma earlier, that I think it's really hard for residents to decide which pollutants they'd like monitored when, you know, that absent, I think, Valley Air sharing which pollutants are even being emitted. And so I urge Valley Air for the next workshop to share information about all of the pollutants being emitted from all 4 of the refineries. And I think at the very least, Valley Air should monitor all 18 of the pollutants that OEHA identified as the top candidates for air monitoring at petroleum refineries. I'm not going to name all 18, but I think folks at the district know which ones I'm referring to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paulina.
We have additional public comment with Gabriel Castro. Gabriel, we are having trouble hearing you.
Let's try this. Can you hear me now?
Gabriel, oh yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, sorry about that. I didn't realize it was logged in under Gabriel's name. This is actually Melinda Palmer from Kern Oil and Refining Company. I just had a couple comments that I wanted to make. I want to thank Chai for mentioning that our fence-line monitoring system is up and live and pointing folks to where they can either go to that directly or link to it from the district's website. We hope that folks actually do visit the site and see what we're doing and what we're monitoring and what those levels are. I certainly want to express to folks that Kern Oil appreciates the privilege of operating in the community. We do not take that for granted. We take our compliance obligations very seriously, including the health and well-being of our neighbors, and recognizing for you guys how important that is to each and every one of the 165 of us that work at the refinery. I know I appreciate the feedback that everybody has given tonight, that all the community members that have showed up and had comments to make about our operation. I certainly also appreciate the opportunity to participate in AB 617 and just recognize that we want to be a part of looking at what are the emissions in the community and working together with folks to make an improvement to that air quality. So thank you.
Thank you, Melinda, for those comments.
We have no additional public comment at this time.
Great. And checking the webcast email inbox, I don't see any additional comments here. So with that, we will go ahead and close.
We do have an additional comment.
Okay, one more.
Laura Hayter, you have the floor.
Can you send me a list of all the OEHA list of the chemicals and refineries?
Yeah, Laura, that's actually available on our website, and I can connect with you later and show you where to go on our air monitoring page website, where there's a link to the OEHA report that discusses all those pollutants. So we can send you that information here later on to get that to you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
We have additional public comment with Gustavo Aguilar.
Hello, good afternoon, or good evening. Gustavo Aguilar Jr. here with Central California Environmental Justice Network here in downtown Bakersfield. Thank you for, I jumped in a little bit late, but thank you for the overview. One question I had was on the actual monitoring site. And the questions to the Air District, is the monitoring site that is considered the fence line air monitoring, is that the aluminum trailer and kind of like telescope looking thing that is south of the physical refinery and in that vegetation field that often grows pumpkins? Is that one of the monitoring sites?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to that, but as far as if you go to the current that website that I mentioned earlier, it identifies exactly where these lines are at. And so they are using open path monitoring. And so you should be able to see as far as where the light is being sent to and where the reflectors are. So if that's within that area, then that probably may be it. Maybe Melinda might have a clear explanation on that.
I might have missed the website. What was the website? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's kern4460.com.
Thank you.
And Gustavo and everybody listening too, we have a link to that website on our valleyair.org website as well. If you go to our website, on the left-hand side, you click on air monitoring. Within that page, you can find a link to our petroleum refining air monitoring page, and from there, you'll find a link to the Kern Oil fence line system if you're interested in viewing the data from that's available there.
We have no additional public comment at this time.
All right, thank you for that. So we'll go ahead and close the scoping meeting for tonight. Really appreciate all of the feedback we've gotten so far, all the involvement. We will have additional workshops in the coming months to provide more detail and some other concepts of where this rule is going. So we'll have other opportunities for your involvement and feedback. Thank you again for your time tonight, and hope you have a great rest of your evening.